Welcome to this episode of the Homestead Journey Podcast 5-Minute Fridays, your weekly dose of information, inspiration, and motivation. Now, here's your host, Brian Wells.
Thank you, Bonnie, and welcome everyone to this inaugural episode of 5-Minute Fridays. This is a new series that I am launching. As the name implies, it will be released every Friday. And this is going to be a very quick take on some kind of a homesteading topic to provide you with information, inspiration, motivation, encouragement for you to take the next right step on your journey towards self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and sustainability. This is something that I've been really thinking about doing for a while, and I just really had struggled with when would be the best time to release the episode. Initially, I had thought about calling it Motivational Mondays, but I already release the regular episodes for the podcast on Mondays. And so that didn't make a lot of sense. And then when Farmer Greg reached out to me for me to be on the Urban Farm podcast, and if you didn't catch that episode, I was on that podcast last week. I'll put a link in the show notes. It really clicked. Brian, most of your listeners are people who work normal 9-to-5 jobs. And so the weekend is really when they're able to devote the bulk of their time towards this thing that we call homesteading. And so that's kind of where the seed was planted. Let's call it 5-Minute Fridays. I'm going to guarantee to you that I'm going to tackle a topic in 5 minutes or less every Friday to hopefully just give you that boost of encouragement for the weekend and help you take that next right step on your homesteading journey. As part of the series, I may answer listener questions like I'm going to do today. So if you have any of those, reach out to me, Brian at thehomesteadjourney.net, or via our social media accounts, and I will be glad to put those in the queue. And sometimes I just may cover a basic homesteading topic. On today's 5-Minute Friday, I am going to address a very, very common issue that people have with starting gardens, and that's knowing when is the proper time to plant seeds. This week, I actually received that question a number of times via social media, and one of the questions went something like this. If we planted peas and beans at the same time, 2 weeks after Good Friday, the peas are up, but the beans aren't, should we replant the beans again or wait? Maybe we got some bad seeds. Unfortunately, many times when people get ready to start a garden, they get so excited that they start a little bit too early. Now, one of the major indicators that people use is last frost date, and that certainly is a good indicator. And in our area, the last average frost date is usually around the middle part of May. Many people in my area, though, don't start their gardens until the end of May. And a big part of that is because not only is last frost date an important indicator, but soil temperature is also a very important indicator, as well as soil moisture. So when you go to plant your seeds, certain things like peas and brassicas and carrots and root crops, they can do well in cooler soil temps. But things like beans actually require a little bit warmer of a soil temp before they will germinate. And so what I advised this individual to do was to dig down and see if they could find a bean seed and see what it looked like. Because they planted the seeds so early, even though we haven't gotten a frost for a while, although that may change tonight, the soil temps aren't such that beans are going to germinate very well. Beans need soil temps at around 70 degrees for good germination. Now, this person could go ahead and wait, but they may also want to go ahead and dig down to see what the condition is of the bean seeds. Since bean seeds are relatively large, and if they know where they planted them, they should be able to find one or two and examine them. Because of the moisture that we've gotten recently, the seeds could have started to rot, and therefore they will no longer germinate, and they may need to resow them. But it just may be a matter of waiting until soil temps get up to a spot to where good germination will take place. As I mentioned, you also do want to keep an eye on soil conditions. Another individual reached out to me to ask about planting potatoes in our area. We have had a lot of rain recently. So right now, even though you can go ahead and plant potatoes, it might be a better idea for them to wait until the soil drains a little bit, because if you try to plant them in too wet of a soil, you run the risk of the potatoes rotting. If you have questions with regards to when you should start seeds outdoors, I do highly recommend the planting guide over at almanac.com. So that's the Farmer Almanac website. There you can enter your hardiness zone, and then it will generate a list of when you should start seeds outdoors. So that's a great resource for you. I'll include that in the show notes. The moral of the story, folks, is when you're getting ready to start a garden, you just need to have a little bit of discipline. And getting a big jump on your garden isn't always a good idea. Yes, last frost date is an indicator, but your soil temps do need to be such that you will get good germination and not have your seeds rot on you. I will be ending every 5-Minute Friday with a motivational quote of the week. This week's quote is an old Chinese proverb that you probably know very well. And that simply is, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll catch you next week right here on 5-Minute Fridays.
Brian can be reached by emailing him at brian@thehomesteadjourney.net or by contacting him via our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support this podcast, we invite you to become a member of the Supporting Listeners program. For $10 a month or $100 per year, you will receive access to a community of like-minded individuals via a private Facebook group, at least one monthly live Q&A with Brian, the opportunity to participate in live recordings of the podcast, access to an ever-expanding library of helpful homesteading content, and so much more. Head on over to support.thehomesteadjourney.net for more information and to sign up today. As always, the music on this episode was provided by audionautics.com, so a big shout out to them.
And until next time, everybody, keep up the good work.